We are live. Welcome everyone to our first ever LinkedIn Live. We are Codingscape, and we are so excited to kick off a series of live technology talks with the humans behind the machines at Codingscape. You might be wondering what Codingscape is. We are a MAD services consultancy, MAD, Modern Application Development to be precise. We provide strategy, design, and software engineering services to clients like Twilio, Zappos, and Veho. Our senior software engineers and product experts work in US time zones to build production-ready software fast. But we're not just about speed, we're also about quality and scalability. Instead of offshoring code, engineering and product leaders work with us to build software right the first time. We specialize in building internal tools to run your business, e-commerce and payment solutions, enterprise integrations, cloud services, mobile projects, and generative AI. I like to say we got mad skills for mad projects. We wanted to get real with technology and product leaders about building software, growing senior engineering teams, and making technology choices. And so these live talks will skip all the jargon, move past the pressure of the meeting rooms, and dissolve office politics so we can get straight to the real talk of software development and share insights that'll help you make better decisions. I'm your host today, Lauren Carris. I'm a product and learning leader at Codingscape. I've spent the last 20 years developing people, teams, and learning products, and the last 10 years helping founders bring their ideas to life. The last 5 years, I've been building software products on Tiger teams alongside some of the most talented developers, like our guest today. Will, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Will Shappee. I'm a senior developer here at Codingscape, and I've been creating apps and websites for almost 10 years now. In those 10 years, I've been a part of many different teams and have had many different experiences, along with a variety of jobs in other sectors that have given me a good amount of wisdom into what does and doesn't work in development.
Awesome. Well, let's kick off the show. Today, we're going to talk about developer readiness plans. Will, I've had the pleasure of working with you on a couple of projects, and we like to say that we learn a lot. We've learned a thing or two. Let's just kind of go back and tell us how many projects you've worked on at Codingscape and what have they been like?
So I've been on 3 projects here at Codingscape, one of them for 2 separate engagements. All of them have been mobile apps, but they've all been very different. I worked on a logistics hybrid app. I helped build an employment job board and a retail app.
I'm not going to ask the provocative question of do you prefer waterfall or agile? That's for a whole different subject. But I am going to show a little slide here, something that we've put together, which is a super simplified software development journey. Usually when we engage with our clients, we come in that middle spot, the red one there around design and development. And Will, tell us a little bit about what helps us move faster when we engage with clients, because after all, they're coming to us, they're spending money, they want to get started quickly. What helps us out?
So obviously clients want the most bang for their buck. And a lot of times clients want you to move fast, and they also want to see something, because whether you're doing something behind the scenes or some UI that everybody can see, they just want to see some productivity, some bang for their buck. So I would say that the onboarding process, especially for us here at Codingscape, is extremely important, and if done ahead of time by the client, can really help save them some time and really money in the long run. And so in order to do that, there's a few things that I would like to outline. One is developer accounts and access. Once you start building an app, to have a developer account is very important. And it also, like, if you need certain permissions certain data, if you could have that ready on that account, that's also very, very, very important. As well as access to everything. So, with uh, development, there's a lot of collaboration and development management tools that everybody likes to use, whether it's GitHub, Bitbucket, Confluence, Jira. Um, you know, Having access to these, or having the ability to gain access to these, is very important right from the get. So you can start going over all the documentation and getting ready for your, to start doing the actual development work. Once you're ready to do development work, uh, it's really, really great if the product has an up-to-date README. I think this is a crucial first step that a lot. But this is in the case where you're coming into an existing project. Obviously, if you're starting from scratch, then this doesn't apply. But if you're coming into an existing project and there is a README that outlines how to get the project up and moving, where the repo's at, like, how to get, how to launch it, how to do everything, it's, paramount into getting, dev ready. And now we're going to move on to a more like, once you've got access and you're able to, take that next step into doing development, you really want to know, and this is in the case of, like, a lot of times, like, I end up being a front end developer. For that situation, you want to know where the back end is and what the state of the back end is. Like, are all the APIs up to date? Are they functioning? Is there documentation? If there is documentation, is it accurate? Does all the data look the same as if I hit that endpoint? Because those can all throw a big wrench in your ability to produce at a fast pace. I would say, lastly, but not, very important, is UI and UX. Design is very, very important, especially because you need to have that roadmap to show you, like, where you want to go and what you need to do to get there. And one of the most important things with that is, like, setting up a design system. Implementing design systems early is way easier than doing it when the app is half built or the web page is half built. And then also making sure that that UX has been properly flushed out. We've done projects where we've had old UX or new UX, and the old UX doesn't navigate, or it's UX for web and not for mobile. You want to make sure you have, like, whatever platform you're developing for, you want to make sure that you have UX and, like, your navigation set up for that specific device or platform. And then have you confirmed with your and once you have that UX set up, have you confirmed with developers about the time involved? Have you done have you consulted with existing and potential customers about the flow and the ease of use? There's lots of things that you can do in order to make sure that everything runs smoothly.
Yeah. It's quite a list. I'm sure we're going to have some content spun up that'll give us some bullets that people can reference later. But we've got some questions in the chat that I think are really interesting. First of all, the list that you described might be like in a perfect scenario, all these things are set up. And some clients might believe, like, we've got it so fleshed out. We've got super high fidelity UX. We've got a prototype in Figma and it's all perfect. And here you go, hurry up and get ready. One of the questions is, what's the best tool for UX in this kind of an engagement when you're bringing on a development team? That high fidelity where maybe the client has spent a ton of time, a lot of resources, or is low fidelity okay? Maybe talk me through the benefits or pitfalls of both.
I mean, I think that low fidelity is okay if they're okay with low fidelity. If, obviously Figma is kind of the industry standard right now. And it's great. It's got a ton of tools and a ton of functionality. Some of the pitfalls of Figma are it's not always easily read by developers. Like most Figmas that you look at are unorganized, disjointed, and very difficult to interpret, especially like navigation wise. So from that perspective, I think you really need to look at, how easy is this from a developer's perspective to interpret and move forward with.
This is such an interesting point because Figma is super high fidelity. You can make really great prototypes out of it that might be functioning, but you're bringing up a really interesting insight, which is actually the human side of development and thinking about tool readiness or project readiness from the perspective of developers might change how you think about engaging with clients, right? Or how clients might engage with us. So this, like, I love this topic, human-centered development. That example right there with Figma is a really good one because it might be serving the perfect purpose with getting visuals and colors together, maybe for executives or, like I said, for prototypes. But when it comes down to actually passing it off to or engaging developers, you all have some very different questions that spin up, right? Okay, so we've got some playbooks and some guidebooks at Codingscape, and we try to bake in all of these readiness plans so that we can get started faster. But there's something else, I think, that's related to onboarding development teams, and that's related to product leadership. So let's just zoom out a little bit. Let's say you've got all the tools ready, you've got all of your accounts ready, you've got maybe they're low fidelity, maybe they're high fidelity, you've got it all ready to go. Share with me some of the top questions that come up from developers. You've got all the stuff, but there still tend to be some questions around like product leadership, I think. Talk me through some of those.
Well, I mean, I feel like a lot of when you're going through a product and you're starting development, and if I'm off base here, please let me know. But when you're doing that, as a developer, you're looking at, like what is the purpose of this, and what is the expected functionality, and how does that tie into the rest of the app? Like, why does it look like this? Why does it have something? Why is it a different color than everything else? There's so many little things like that I think are glossed over by, or maybe just assume that it's okay, by your designer. But from a developer's perspective, he or she is taking like a much different aspect and a much different look at what is going on with the product.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's like that convergence and divergence, right? Sometimes in the preparation for development, it gets so detailed that we might lose sight of, like you said, the purpose. What are we trying to accomplish with this project? What do we absolutely need to make sure a user is doing by the end of, whatever it might be? And so those are really great tips on how to keep the details and the keys ready to go, but you're also able to anchor everything with that big picture view. those navigation flows, those sometimes even user insights, right? What do we know about our users? What's the actual pain point that we're trying to solve? Yeah, I love that. And those two questions that you shared, Will, over the engagements we've had, I can now anticipate them. I know you and the other developers on our team are going to ask, why is this like this? What do we actually have to do? What's the expected functionality? So I'm always trying to help you out with those questions. I love it. Let's flip the script a little bit and let's talk about some of our favorite projects that we've worked on. What was it that made them so awesome? And what specifically about that engagement, like from the client side, from our side, made it just gel?
I don't know if I have a favorite project. They all had some aspects that I enjoyed, and or learned something, which, anytime you can learn something, you're moving forward, and that's great. With the logistics app, we had to adapt to their architectural framework, which was difficult and not standard. And, there was a lot of that was tough because we had to really, fight to try to make the app work the way we wanted it to work. And it was really good. I learned a lot on that because I had to fight so hard.
Mm-hmm.
The job board they probably did the best job of technically onboarding,
Mm-hmm.
as far as giving us access, having a user set up. They did an exceptional job with that. But they lacked UX in a huge way, and they kind of figured that out, and we helped them get to a point where it worked and it looked a lot better, especially during the second. That one was with we had two engagements, and during the second engagement it really got dialed in. The resale app was interesting because that app was not fleshed out all the way, or that idea was not fleshed out all the way, and the back end was still kind of up in the air. So it was tough to be productive. But me and the other developer on the team, we really looked at doing things from the ground up, and like really trying to get to like the work on the very basic stuff, and make sure everything is reusable, and make sure it does work, so that when we did get the data, that it would just be kind of plug and play.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. Yeah. So it sounds like maybe the thread for all of those might be really good communication and knowing pretty much who calls the shots, who can you lean on to really push the project forward or actually get you access to whatever's missing. Knowing those stakeholders, having them on Slack speed dial is super important, because then you can kind of cut through a lot of the noise, right? I like to talk about those tiger teams, and you know exactly who to go to, where to make decisions, and how to move forward. Communication, love that. All right, so here's the $1 million question. Client comes to the understanding that they either don't have bandwidth, like their team is just strapped and they can't move forward, or maybe they don't have, let's say, mobile expertise and they really need a mobile team. What if they don't have all these things figured out and they're not ready to go? They can still reach out to us and we can still help them get set up, right?
Yes.
So I think we've had some really fun engagements where we've come in on the front end fully knowing that it was not ready to start development, but we were there to help them prepare, like get development ready. And those, I think, tend to be some of the most successful, because the client is expecting that help and guidance, right? They know they've got a bunch of holes maybe in the checklist, but they're willing to, to partner in order to get ready. Yeah. You've been on some of those too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, those have been some pretty fun. All right, so we are going to do a little lightning round. Will, I have some fun questions for you, not related to clients, but more just you as a developer. Tell me, who or what is your greatest inspiration?
Now this is a lightning round, so do I have to keep these like under a minute or?
I mean, we still have some time, so yeah, do your best.
My greatest inspiration is my dad. He worked really hard, and he was a smart guy. Maybe he wasn't given all the opportunities, but he busted his butt for our family, and he drove, close to 3 hours every day in and out of the city in Chicago just to make a living. So he's a pretty good dude.
I love that. We're going to keep going with the lightning round, and then we're going to open it up for some Q&A because I see some more questions coming through. But question number 2 for your lightning round, and also, hats off to your dad. Dads who make a big impact, I think, are a big deal. So that's good. Sometimes work gets a little hard. What do you do to keep it fun?
Work. This is like actually something that like hits home for me is like I feel like uh, work does get hard, and but it doesn't always have to. There's always room for a little bit of like comedy. Little jokes. Keeping things light. Things can be light and serious.
Mm-hmm.
You know, also getting to know maybe the people that you're working with, even if it is for a short period of time, I think is a great way to like kind of take your mind off of things. Like, hey, like, oh, you have kids. I saw your kids in the teams video, or hey, like you have a dog, or just
Mm-hmm.
establishing that personal connection. It also helps build like a level of trust with uh, the people that you're working with. So that helps them give you the opportunity. If they trust you, they'll be more likely to collaborate with you. Collaboration brings about more productivity, in my opinion, and that's always a good thing.
I love that. I think developers often get a bad rep for not being a certain way, but you're talking about a lot of empathy and a lot of human-centered approaches to even what works in our collaborations with folks. I love that. All right, last lightning round question, then we're going to come to the chat for some questions. Speaking of keeping things light, I noticed you have a graphic T-shirt there, and having worked with you on some projects, I know you have a closet full of punny T-shirts. So share your punniest T-shirt with us.
So this is my punniest T-shirt.
You're
This,
kind of a
this
big
works on a lot of this works on a lot of different levels for me.
yeah.
Mostly because I don't take myself too seriously, but I am confident in my ability. And then also, I love pickles. So
Yeah. In fact, I think on one engagement we had someone who was pickling pickles during the engagement.
yeah, we talked for hours about it one time.
It's amazing. Amazing. Very cool. All right. Well, let's come back to some of these chat questions here. We've got one question about non-technical stakeholders. And I think we deal with non-technical stakeholders a lot. Sometimes they might be thinking, do I need to bring on an external development team? Do I need to be worried about my onshore or my offshore option? I think that is a pretty normal question. Um, so for all of you non-technical stakeholders or founders, we actually do offer some support with technical audits and recommendations. So it's a nice, easy way to get a review without having to commit to our, senior development team efforts. But it's a really nice onboarding and different perspective, I think, which is great. Do you have anything to add to that? Well, technical audits, I think, are such a great way to just see the lay of the land, right? And it's so like low entry, right? Awesome. I have a lot of opinions about what the role of a PM is for tech readiness, but Will, I would love to hear from you. What do you think the role of a PM? And that could be project or product manager, but have I helped you in some projects?
I mean, I think that especially like getting started, it's really putting the developer in touch with who has the information for what. Like that's a big deal. Also, maybe a lot of times, I know I've gone to you many times for like to flush out business logic,
Mhm.
right? Like if there's not like really well documented business logic, which there never is, it's paramount to like be able to get in contact or to be able to find somebody that knows what's supposed to be going on. And a lot of times as a developer, you don't have time to be writing code and also searching out for some person who could be one in who however many like that actually has that information that you need. So I
Mhm.
think that's probably the most important thing.
Our head of product, Kim Sullivan, likes to refer to PMs being routers, knowing who to get information from, how to bring that back to the team, and how to do it at lightning speed to keep the project moving. And I love that concept related to what you just shared, being a really good router, getting the information you need, going to tackle maybe creating or defining business logic, which to your point, if it's a new project, there's probably not business logic already created, but having someone with bandwidth to go and do that part of the work is really, really important. Another question from the chat is, what is the biggest difference in tech readiness for onshore versus offshore devs? And this is an interesting question. I'm going to answer it in a slightly different way because I used to be on the other side of this CodingScape experience, and I used to be the client at one point. I had a project that we had previously outsourced, and it was an offshore team. And I think it's really important here to just clarify this is nothing against anyone who is offshore. This actually has to do with how a lot of dev shops, and especially offshore dev shops, are managed in that development experience. So we had this project, we had outsourced it. The quality was good enough in the moment, but what was lacking was the consultation, the advice, the coaching for our in-house development team to actually pick it up and continue working on it. And it just hit a wall. We were completely unable to proceed. And then we were very skeptical of bringing on another outsourced team, CodingScape at the time. And so we had to do a lot of like arm wrestling and are you sure you're going to do this for us? And are you sure you're going to be able to work with us as an embedded team? That was really important. And sure enough, it was a super successful project. We might have another live series with one of the team members from that project. But I think the main difference for me as the client in that case was the coaching, the senior advisory experience of developers, and the development team then that I was working with, who all upskilled by virtue of working with this embedded CodingScape team. So I'd love to hear from your perspective, Will. I know you've probably picked up a handful of projects. What do you see as some of the biggest differences in tech readiness?
Um, as far as onshore offshore is concerned, it's very, I would say that one of the toughest things is time zone, right? So, if I'm up and you're sleeping and you're up and I'm sleeping, then it doesn't really make for good collaboration. And let's say I'm up and I open up a PR and there's some urgency in it. And, maybe maybe I'm refactoring some work that an offshore person did and I really want their approval on the PR. I want them to take a look at it. I'm not going to get that till the next day at the earliest, which, if you want things right away, it's not ideal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, time zone's a huge factor. And like I shared, it's really the senior level expertise at CodingScape who's able to help bring teams along. It's not just doing the work and leaving, right? So we've filled a full half hour. This was awesome for our very first round. Thanks, Will, for being first to go along with me. This was great. I'm going to give a little outro pitch here about Codingscape one more time for anyone who is listening. You can find out more about Codingscape and our services at codingscape.com. We've got case studies, reports, and guides for you to access on your own. You could check out the How to Work with Outsourced Team report that is actually super related to this talk today. To talk with a human about the work we do, just send a message through our contact form. We're currently offering technical audits, product roadmap reviews with our CTO. And if you're evaluating your tech stack, your code, your development capabilities, or even if you're just curious about how to make your product roadmap more visible, let's talk. Join us next time where we'll be talking a little bit about one of our newest projects that dips into the research and discovery side of the software development journey. Until next time, keep your mad skills growing.